Welcome everyone, today we have a very special guide for Diablo 4. As you guys can see behind me, I have taken the time and also the effort to make a Diablo 4 gambling guide. And if you look at behind me, we have lots of numbers, lots of notes. And I really want to go through this with you guys because not only did I make for one class, I made it for every class. And every class there will be something different because there will be the best weapon to be gambling for each of the class, including Necromancer, Druid, Barbarian, Rogue, and also Sources. Notice that for Rogue, to get your offensive legendary aspects, you should be gambling for rings. And I'll explain to you guys why as we go through the rates and also the guide. And in case you guys are wondering, yes, you do get double the rate if you gamble correctly. Let's say if I'm going for defensive aspects, and if I was just gambling for helmet or the chest, I'm looking at a 5% chance. But if I'm going for pants, I'm looking at 11% chance. So it is very important for you guys to know which of the class, which of the parts to be gambling to get the best rate in each of the gambling, to find your desired legendary when you go for gambling, whether it's defense, offense, utility, or anything you wanted. Now if you guys want your own copy of this video and also of this guide, we also have other guides that is also included in this Excel, but those are also work in progress. So what I recommend is come over to files and also click make a copy, and then you can make a copy of this Excel. I don't recommend changing the values too much because I'll update this for you guys. But if you do want, and if you do see the legendary rates to be different, you can change this rate, and this will reflect on all the numbers that is down there. Let's say if I'm changing the legendary rate to 0.2, and all the rates that is over here will be changed accordingly. But of course guys, I'll be updating those Excels constantly for you guys. So this way you have the latest update of the rates and also best gambling items and also best rates. Now because there's quite a few things I want to go through with you guys with this gambling Excel, because there's so many classes, right? I'll use the Necromancer as the example, and this will be the same way for all the other classes. And of course we're going to each of the classes into details, because for the Necromancer it is the best to be gambling for one-handed offensive weapon, and for the Druid this is actually the case for gloves. For the Barbarians this is for the weapon, for the Rogue this is for the ring. I'll explain very soon. And do bear with me guys, there's a lot of things I want to go through with you guys, so make sure you use the time step to get the most value out of this Excel and also the cheat sheet for the gambling for Diablo 4. Now as you guys can see over here, as of the latest changes with the Silver Slam, helmet and also amulets no longer have the roles of the legendary resource aspects. I have checked on multiple build calculators and this seems to be the case, so I have also adjusted this one. So to give you guys an initial summary, if you're just playing the game and if you want to play on each of your classes and you want to be gambling, here are the straightforward part about what you should be gambling. If you're going for Necromancer, you should be going for offense, you should be gambling for one-handed weapon in the game. And for defense, you should be gambling for the defensive pins for the legendary aspects. Utility and also mobility, those would be the boots. And finally, if you're looking for resource legendary aspects to be gambling, you should be gambling for rings for the Necromancer. Now this is also the case for most of the other classes, but here notice that the Druid, you actually get a better rate if you're gambling on the gloves when you go to the gamblers and also purchase gloves to find legendary offensive aspects. So here what I want to show you guys is those are the more detailed rates over here. As you can see, you get 1.98% chance of getting legendary offensive aspects on the gloves, and in comparison if you're going for the weapon you're losing about 0.02%, and if you're going for the rings this is actually the similar rate. So ideally for the Druid, you can be going for the gloves or going for the rings or the offhand weapon. Those will give you the best rates, and you don't want to go for the one-hand weapon. So just as an update, I'll add this one for you guys over here as well. So each of the classes, this will be a little different. So make sure you use where my mouth is, come over to your class and see what is the best one. And this is a brief summary. For the Barbarians, you want to be gambling for one-handed weapons for the most chance of getting offensive aspects. And those actually matters a lot. For the Rogue, you actually want to be going for the rings. And just to show you guys quickly over here, you can see that the rings you're looking at 2.38% of legendary, while one-handed weapon you get 2.22%. And if you're going for the gloves or the offhand, it's 2.19%. Now finally, it is the case for the sources, you should be going for one-handed weapon. Now you guys might be wondering, how are you getting those rates and how are you calculating this? So here comes a bit of number crunching. I'll briefly explain to you guys. Because each of the classes actually have different numbers of offensive legendaries, and this is dramatically different for the Barbarian and also for the Rogue. And notice that sometimes there's more resource and also sometimes there's more utility, sometimes there's more mobility. So if we come over to the build calculator, you can see some classes have a lot of offensive codex, and Barbarian doesn't have that much, right? And if you have a look at the Druid actually have a lot more than the Barbarian. So by using those differences, you actually have a very unique situation for each of your classes. So if you guys don't know the actual rate, and if you're just gambling because you're trying your luck, you may be losing out on maybe 5%, 10%, even up to 50 to 100% better rate if you're not gambling correctly. And yes guys, in case you're wondering, yes, I spent the time counted all of the legendaries for each of the classes, for each of the sections. It actually took me a while. My eyes were going googly. So what happened is I counted how many legendary offensive aspects was there for the Necromancer, and then I wanted to count how many is there. Because what you're going to see is sometimes if you're going for the gloves or if you're going for the offhand, right? If you're going for those things, they actually have two rates because the gloves can be rolling on the offensive aspects or the utility aspects. So it is very important to see the balance between those two to give you guys a better rate and also the best chance of getting legendaries you wanted. So now that we briefly talked about what you should be gambling for the best rates, let's have a look at the more detailed work. So you don't have to worry about too much of those, but they should be a little self-explanatory. So here what I want to make is, I want to make a unique gambling table for a lot of different rates. And notice that the cost of opals for each of the items has been upgraded. So in the open beta, it costs 25 opals to be gambling on the gloves and also for the boots. But now they're 40, and this is also adjusted with the updated Excel. And for the data of, the table of data, the first one is about how much rate you get if you spend 1 opal on an item. But ideally, you're not going to spend 1 opal, right? For the gloves, you're going to spend 40 opal, and the next table shows the rates. And similarly, I'm assuming you guys are not gambling for two-handed weapons. We're just gambling for one-handed weapon over here, because two-handed weapon is not worth it. So here, if you're gambling for the weapon, you'll spend 50 opal, and this is your chance of getting the legendary aspects you wanted if you see a legendary weapon in your inventory. So let's come over to one of my replays of me gambling, and I'll show you guys what I mean by those rates as we go. This is actually during the server slam, and I was gambling for focus, which is offhand. I was really lucky this time. Usually the rate is 1 out of 15. So every 15 item you gamble, you get 1 legendary. So notice I got 2 legendaries. So what does the second type of rates means is, if you see a legendary, this is the chance of the legendary being the ones you wanted. So here we haven't incorporated the rate of getting a legendary from just buying any of the items. So each table progressively we get more details. Now, in case you guys are wondering, yes, as the server slam changes the rates, because in open beta the rates are much different, right? So in the server slam compared to the open beta we used to have the rate of 1 out of 5, and now with the server slam we're looking at the rate of 1 out of 15. So in reality, if you're actually buying a gloves from the gambler, this is the rate you get for getting any of the legendary offensive aspects you wanted. Let's say if I'm going for Druid, I'm going for Companion, and I really wanted my Companion to become one more Companion, and I really wanted the Werewolf Companions. So here is the rate. If I were to buy 1 gloves from the gambler, this is the rate of getting what I wanted. It is pretty low, I know. So I don't want to show you guys the lowest rates, right? And the final table is what you get if you spend 500 opals on gambling for each of those items. And those are highlighted to show you guys the best items. Now, if you guys haven't subscribed, it is a really good time to do so, because I'll be covering tons of Diablo 4 related topics and also videos and also guides. We'll be looking to the top meta builds, non-meta builds, leveling up, and also Paragon tricks. We're also looking to the latest events and also official updates, and also changes to different characters and also different builds in the game. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn the notification on, because a lot of you who are watching the videos have not subscribed. You can see 80% of the viewers who are watching our videos have not subscribed. So make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for the latest update for Diablo 4. So ideally, for a lot of friends out there, if you don't want to go through the first few tables, those are for calculations and also progressively showing you more information. And the final table is more important, right? Because usually we spend 500 opal or more, and we want to know how much and also what rate we get, and what is the best item for each of our classes. Now notice I have highlighted something in green and something in red. The red ones are the best ones if you're going for the offensive ones, and if you're going for the defensive ones, if you go for pants. If you're going for utility, you should go for boots. But why do I highlight the gloves and the offhand, also the rings? Is that in case you guys want to go with offensive and also go with utility, you can consider going for the gloves. So sometimes you want multiple legendary aspects. But of course, if you're just going for the offensive aspects for your class, for the Necromancer, it is the best to be gambling for one-handed weapon, not the offhand, because you actually lose a bit of rate. But for each of the class, this will be different. So if we come over to the Druid, what you're going to see is it is actually better to gambling the gloves, offhand, or the rings. And if you're gambling on the weapon, you actually lose out the rate of getting higher offensive aspects. Now, I know a lot of you guys are saying, hey, what do you mean by 100% better rate, right? Let's say if you're gambling for utility, and sometimes there's some really good utility aspects over here. I'll give you guys an example. I really like the Explore aspects, which allows you to have increased damage against unstoppable enemies. And I think this is great for most of the classes. So let's say if you're gambling for these legendary aspects, and if you're gambling on the helmet or the chest, you're looking at 4.4% rate. But if you're gambling on the boots, you're looking at 8.3% rate of getting this item, of this legendary, right? So there you go, almost double the rates, right, if you do this correctly. And it's very important to know for each of your classes, because for different classes, the rates will change. That's why I spend the time making 5 classes. I'm crazy, right? So I know I'm not going to play all 5 classes, but I know there will be viewers out there that will play different classes. And I want to make it as detailed as I can for you guys. So notice here for the Barbarian, you actually get the highest rate of getting the legendary offensive aspects on your weapons. And this is very important to know because you want a lot of those. Now, as you guys go through the tab, you're going to see there's a lot of different rates. So make sure you come to your class-specific guide, because I made each guide for each of the classes. I could make this into 5 videos, you know, but I thought I'd just do one, right? In case you guys see the Barbarian, you're like, oh my god, you want to play a different class. So here are the first 2 parts of the video. But there is additional usage of this guide as you go through the numbers. But this is like a little, a little more advanced way. So what I mean by that is, I wouldn't say this is the ideal way or the most efficient way, but let's say if you're playing multiple classes, and if you play multiple classes and a lot of classes actually shares legendaries. Let's say if here I want to explore legendary, and this is in the utility section, right? And I'm actually playing multiple classes. Let's say if I'm playing Druid and also Necromancer, and if I compare the rates, and let's say if I'm going for utility, right? So let's highlight the utility over here. You can see the utility for boots on the Necromancer is 7.58%, but the utility on the Druid is 8.3%. So the final method of using this guide is that if you're playing multiple classes, and if you're gambling for a universal legendary that works on all classes, what you want to do is look at the availability of the classes, and then because Opal is shared across all the classes, and if you're gambling for universal, keep in mind guys, universal legendary, not the class-specific legendary. Then you can come over here, or actually, you can make an account. You can make another character in your account, and then you can work this account into the legendary gambler, and you can be gambling for legendary this way. That's actually really smart, right? But this only works on the level 50 though. After level 50, you want higher grade items, right? But if you were to have a character that is in a specific category, so we're using the example of getting this legendary aspects, and this is universal, right? So let's say for each of the character classes, notice that different classes have different rate for utility. So here, you're going to see, let's go all the way here. So you're going to see for the sources, it's 7.58 of getting what you wanted by spending 500 opals. And for the rogue, it's 7.58. For the barbarian, 7.58. For the druid, it's 8.33. For the necro, it's 7.58. Simply because the druid actually have less utility aspects. And what this means is, if you're gambling for universal legendary aspects, let's say the example is over here, this one, or if you're gambling for a different one, we use this example, you should be spending your 500 opals on the druid. But that said, you may be getting other legendaries on the druid that is specific, right? So this is the final tip I have for you guys. I wouldn't say this will be the most useful at the launch of the game, but later stage as you play all the classes, all the characters, and if you're just missing one universal legendary aspects, you can make use of this table, and this could give you better rates and better results. Now, hopefully I didn't make the video too confusing for you guys. I really spent a lot of time and got really excited making this guide for you guys. And you can see there's so many tables and so many numbers for different classes, right? But I do realize I spoke a little faster, and I do apologize for not covering this into the dark mode, because while I was making this guide, I already colored the numbers, and if I turn this into dark mode like this, so what you're going to see is everything will have to be adjusted, and it will take us too long to adjust that. So I decided to keep it in the white mode, and I do apologize for not being able to do that, because it will take me a longer time, because I have to do for all the tables. So bear with me guys, in the future I'll try to make it into dark mode. Now, in case you do find this still a little confusing, just come over here to use the top table for each of the classes. You don't have to worry about the other details. If you're gambling according to this particular guide, this will give you the best rates. Sometimes you even gain double the rate, like 100% more rate if you're gambling for defensive aspects on the pens. You also get a 5 or even 10% higher rate if you gamble correctly on the offensive legendaries. And this is very important for each of the classes. So let me know in the comments, guys, how do you find this guide? Oh boy, I spent quite a bit of time, and I do have a mathematic and also a bit of Excel background, and I'm Asian, so I like numbers, right? But still, it took me a long time making this one to make it work for you guys and update everything for you before the launch of the game, so you can be getting more legendaries. And if you do like guides like this, make sure you hit a like and subscribe. We'll be making more guides, and leave a nice comment. And of course, if you guys are financially capable and want to support me more, we do have links for donations. Shamelessly asking, right? I'm just joking. As long as you guys like those videos and find it helpful, I'm really happy already. And for me, I want to provide more information to the community, and whatever I can, I'm happy to spend hours making this guide. And as long as it is helpful, I'll be really happy. And if you do have any tips or guides, advices on making Excels, let me know as well. Because my Excel skills are still very basic, I don't make the most user-friendly Excels. And if you guys want to help me with Excel, that'll be really welcome as well. Now, before you go, and if you guys didn't know, we have a new YouTube channel. And if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and check out the behind the scenes and also fun clips and also more stories about us. And then you get to know me a little more personally instead of just reading the news and also the games, right? So I want to share a little bit more with you guys. So make sure you check this channel out if you're interested about Matt and also Uni. She's really funny too, and she's really shy. So I want to give her a surprise and do a shout out for the new channel to get some subscribers. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time.